Yeah, welcome, welcome. So we're gonna be talking about financial goal setting today. We've had a practice. We've just done this on Twitter actually, which is funny. So we'll see if the second round is better than the first round. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, happy to be doing it. What's up,
Cool.
Adam? Adam also quarantining.
There we go. Look at that. Hey guys. uh, cool. We got some people hopping in. Hey Emery, how's it going? So
All right, let's
cool.
do it.
All right,
Let's
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 dive
talk
into it.
let's talk goals.
All right, so we're going to be talking about goal setting for 2022. We're going to be talking about financial goal setting for obvious reasons, but some of the things that we've learned that'll help you. You can apply this outside of finances as well, but that's going to be the focus for our talk today. Um, so the first thing is that it is often difficult to achieve your financial goals and just goals in general. Only 8% of people achieve their goals, and this is tied mostly to New Year's resolutions. So that's what the research shows us. So there's a bunch of things that we're going to talk about as to why that is and how you can set goals more effectively to set yourself up for success.
Yeah, absolutely. Goals are difficult to achieve. There's lots that goes into it, and yeah, it's important to have frameworks. It's important to have a community to get you there. There's so many things that we're going to run through that will help you get over that 8% achievement percentage that everybody tends to have to deal with.
Yeah. And so some of the reasons why people don't achieve their goals, oftentimes they're not measurable, right? They're kind of wishy-washy. Like, I want to improve my finances. I want to save more money. I want to pay down debt. I want to lose weight. I want to be healthier. But what exactly does that mean? And so that's where the first place people tend to go wrong when it comes to setting New Year's resolutions and just goals in general.
Yeah, exactly. It's you need to be kind of focused on what you want to achieve, before you can kind of, you got to get specific with what goals you want to set before you kind of make progress.
Exactly. And I can go ahead and tell you that I've made this mistake before. So I'll actually start with some of the goals, a goal that I haven't achieved. So I was really interested in real estate. And for, I don't know how many years, I said that I was going to buy like 4 rental properties. So like one a quarter was the goal. And I can go ahead and tell you that to this date, I do not own 4 rental properties. So I have never been able to achieve that goal. And partly it's because I didn't have a way to measure my progress towards it, right? Just buying a rental property was just such a big thing, that I didn't have a measurable way. I didn't have progress, didn't have action, and I didn't have accountability. I wasn't really telling anyone that was a goal. And so that's an example of a bad goal. And we can talk about some of the ways that you can set yourself up for success and what you can do in the future to be able to achieve goals. But that's one example. And so there's these different frameworks that we can use that will help you set appropriate goals that you can achieve. And Andrew, if you want to dive into those.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the most common ones is SMART goals, right? Most people have heard of those. Something that's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, right? And there's some other ones as well. OKRs, objectives and key results, is a big business one that lots of companies use. And big, hairy, audacious goals is kind of an extension of SMART goals, where you pick just an absurdly difficult goal to achieve and then work your way up to that, find a way to get there. Um, and just using these frameworks is really important, right? It's how you get from A to B. It's easy to think about a goal that you want to achieve and you just, it seems way out there. It's far-fetched. I want to have $10 million by the time I'm 50. I want to retire when I'm 35, or I want to lose 50 pounds, right? Those are difficult to kind of conceptualize. Okay, well, how do I get from where I am today to that point? Having these frameworks can provide you with an avenue to be able to achieve these things, and it's so key to getting from A to B. So you see common threads in these different frameworks, right? Having a timeline is one that's really, really important, and creating intermediate steps along that timeline that are going to enable you to get to that goal is just absolutely vital in order to make sure that you can achieve it. It kind of helps your motivation, and it gets you, you know, it takes you through each of the steps that you need to achieve along the way.
Absolutely. And so when we think about like setting a SMART goal, that's one of the most common ones. And I can give you an example of a SMART goal that I set. And this was one that I had initially set when I first started with my first corporate job, which was at Gartner. I think Kason was on here for a second. I don't know if he's still on, but and Zach Winslow. But you guys are very familiar with Gartner. Know you guys from there. But my goal was to max out my 401k, and I think at the time the max was $14,000 is what you could contribute in a year. And to put this in perspective, like my base salary was 42. So it wasn't like I was, you know, I was making good money, but I wasn't like I was, you know, making six figures and it was going to be easy. And that was my goal. And what I did was I set a really high contribution percentage. I set it to, I think it was 24% at the time. I set it to whatever my age was, which I believe I was 23, 24 at that time. And that was what I did. And the challenge was that even with that amount contributed at my base salary, I wasn't actually going to hit that goal still. But because I was in a sales role, there was an opportunity to add in commission and other things like that, but I was tracking my progress. So I knew that I wanted to max it out. I had all year to do it. I had already a pretty good foundation where I was contributing a good chunk of change every paycheck. And by checking in regularly, and then having this opportunity with commission checks to set a different percentage, I set it to 75%. Since I was used to living on my base salary, I was able to eventually achieve that goal. But I think that's an example of one that's measurable, it's time bound, you've got these intermediate steps, and it's something that was attainable even on, you know, the salary that I was at to achieve that. And I managed to achieve that. So that's an example of how you can apply a SMART goal, and something that I've done personally.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's kind of shows, right? You've managed to set yourself a plan and have a timeline to get to where you want it to be. You know, and that's kind of one of the biggest things, right? Is not making a plan to achieve your goals is one of the biggest reasons that people just don't get there. So having those intermediate milestones is vital. Something to think about, you know, that I think a lot of people tend not to get over this hurdle, right? They think, oh, I've got to, you know, and how am I going to figure out how to achieve this goal? A lot of the time, you're not the first person, right, to go through whatever it is that you're going through, right? There's people out there who've had similar experiences, been in similar situations, and whether it's exactly the same or not, they've created a plan and achieved success that, you know, is probably applicable to you. And so finding those people that can kind of either provide a guiding light or just, you know, provide a strategy that can get you from A to B is really important. You know, Reddit's a great way to do this, right? There's some big subreddits out there that are better known. Wall Street Bets is one if you have a certain type of goal, but you know, you think about financial independence, retire early, right? FIRE movement, they have a big subreddit, but there's some really niche ones out there as well, some very unusual ones that can provide a community and provide people that have experience that can give you a pathway to goal achievement. And so you don't necessarily have to do all of that work in order to come up with a pathway to success for yourself. So I think that's something to keep in mind when you're going through this process. And, you know, it's something that we're really focused on at Ostrich, right? Where we're, you know, putting people together who are in similar situations and crowdsourcing information and strategies from those people and enabling them to work together on achieving their goals and kind of avoiding this sort of siloed attempt at goal achievement that people tend to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the key stats, right? So research shows that when you combine a regular weekly check-in with an accountability partner, you almost double your chance, 95% chance of achieving your goal. So it makes a big difference. And it's, you know, obviously really, really important that you apply these things. And to your point, Andrew, there's very rarely a time where you're the first person that's ever gone through whatever you're doing. Emery, I see your comment and there's a roadmap. I'll tell you about that afterwards. But not relevant to what we're talking about. But it's rarely the first time that you've ever done anything, right? Whether it's a financial goal, a fitness goal, a health goal, whatever goals you've got for 2022, like there's someone that's gone through that situation and you're not the first one. So being able to find those communities is the key. Obviously, as you mentioned, Andrew, Reddit's a great place to do that. You can find Facebook groups if you still spend any time there. And then obviously Ostrich is a place that we're building that's going to be specific for financial goals and life milestones.
Yeah. So, if we think about other kind of ways to improve your chances, right, of goal achievement, we talked about, having an accountability partner, really helpful. Writing down goals just on its own, you don't have to have anybody else. It makes you 42% more likely to achieve your goals, which is amazing, right? That's a huge jump just for a very small piece of work. For some reason that holds you accountable. So that's another way that you can kind of make that jump. And, to achieve your goals, right, what we found and what research shows is that you need a combination of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, right? And for, if you think about for athletes, often that intrinsic motivation is that want to be the best version of themselves and to prove that they can do something to themselves. And that extrinsic motivation is, there's a financial reward at the end of it, a better contract, or there's trophies and medals. Maybe that's what motivates you. But in finances, right, intrinsically, lots of us want to have more money. Okay, we want to buy that car, we want to buy that house. And turns out, there's a widely quoted study that, over $75,000 of annual income, it doesn't make you any happier. But more recently, a broader study was done that shows that that's not true. And the more money you make, the more happy you're likely to be. So, we have that intrinsic motivation, but extrinsically, there's not a lot there for us from a financial standpoint. And sometimes that's true, in the fitness arena or in lots of different places, right? So finding that extrinsic motivation, really important. And that's where that accountability partner comes in, and there's regular check-ins. What examples have we got?
I think you've got a really good example. Like when I think of someone that's done a good job of blending the intrinsic and the extrinsic, I think what you and Grace did is a fantastic example of doing this. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. For those of you who don't know, which is probably not very many people on who have seen our Instagrams, but Grace and I managed to quit our jobs back in 2019 to go traveling around South America, and this was something that we had planned out, that we knew we wanted to do for a long time in advance. And we worked on a plan to make it happen. We picked a date, so it was time bound. We picked an amount of money that we knew that we would need to budget for the amount of time we wanted to go traveling around South America. We were specific. We made changes in our lifestyle to be able to achieve that. And we were accountable to each other because we'd made this plan. And it wasn't just, well, this is something that I want to do. It was something that we wanted to do together. And we were successful in doing that, right? The trip didn't fully work out because of a little pandemic. But we were able to hit that goal, and it was, we certainly wrote it down, and we definitely were each other's accountability partners, and we had that why right behind the goal. It wasn't just, okay, I want to do this because it's the right thing to do. It was because, right, we want to go travel and have this experience together that's going to be something completely different and life-changing for us. And when we had to make tough choices, we were able to come back and lean on that and do that because we had that underlying motivation that if we don't order pizza again this week, we get a little bit closer to that trip around the Galapagos, right? So we were able to achieve that goal, and it was fantastic, right? Yeah. It was very satisfying to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to start, right? When you think about like finding an accountability partner, like if you have a significant other or close family, like lean on them, and especially when you can share that intrinsic extrinsic motivation, it's disappeared there.
You're back.
I'm back. I have a timer set for how much social media I can do, and it popped up and said that I've hit my limit for the day. So I forgot to turn that off. But yeah, I was just saying, I think that's a great example, right? Leaning on the people in your life. And you guys made decisions, right? You cut out some of the big things. There's like 3 big things, especially when it comes to financial goals, that if you can I say compromise, but if you can cut in one of these areas, it can make a huge impact. And that's housing, transportation, and food.
Yeah. Casey's right. Too much TikTok.
Just
Yeah,
scrolling all day. Yeah.
yeah, no, you're spot on. And so we were able to do that, which was great. But there's there's other strategies that people take, right, in different arenas. We think about fitness, and that's tied to nutrition, right? People hire a gym trainer, or they hire a nutritionist on a regular basis, right? Which is great if you've got the means, right? That's a person who will make the plan, right? Find the pathway for you to get to find success, and then hold you accountable to it, and you're paying for it, so you feel as though you're more committed. So that's that's one way that people succeed. Same thing with financial advisor, right? You're just outsourcing that pathway to success, right? Somebody else can do it and you're paying for that. But just because if you can't afford those things, it doesn't mean that there isn't a route to success for you.
Exactly. And that's obviously why we've built Ostrich, right? So that you don't have to have resources in order to have success, and you can lean and find those people in those communities easier on. I'm curious, and I'm happy to share mine. What's up, Chris? Happy to share mine, but like goals for 2021. Like what are your goals for 2021 when it comes to personal finance or other things?
2021, 2022.
Sorry, 2022. Yeah. Whew. What are you gonna do in the next 2 days is what I'm asking. 2.5 days.
A lot of goals to achieve. No, I mean maxing out retirement accounts to the extent that I can for 2022. Obviously, that's tied to how we do with Ostrich and whether we were able to set up 401k by the end of this year. But that's a big one. And then getting married. Got to make sure that I can afford to pay for a wedding. So that's a big one again for Grace and I. Will be, back to being accountability partners with joint goals, which is something that we've really enjoyed in the past. So excited about that one. What about you?
Yeah, so I think I've been thinking about this, and obviously it's going to be tied to how well we do with Ostrich, which is part of it. But I think it's to build back up an emergency fund, because obviously over the last couple of years, building Ostrich, not having an income, having to put money into the business, that's dwindled back down. So I'd like to get that back up to at least 25K.
Sure.
And that's my big goal. And the reason is obviously just to be able to take a deep, easier deep breath about everything. So yeah, I mean, that's mine. And so thinking about like, how does that work? And for us, obviously it's a little more nuanced. And for people that don't have a regular income, how do you plan, especially for financial goals? So it's about being smart when you have windfalls and understanding, how you can achieve those. So that's how I'm thinking about that target. Yeah. is right. It's not going to be a linear path of like, X amount of dollars every month. Right. But it'll probably be more like a little bit. And then hopefully we have a lot of success and we can start paying ourselves towards the latter half of the year in a meaningful way. So
that sounds lovely. I'm on board. I think I'm aligned in that particular goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to you being able to build up that emergency fund.
Same, yeah, and I'm looking forward to the wedding. So part of that
absolutely.
Is being able to ensure that I can afford to attend it. But
me too.
Yeah,
me too. But yeah, so okay. Well, we focused a lot on personal finance, but I think one of the key things here is question from the audience. Hello, Matt. So, how are we consistently tracking them and keeping them top of mind? Interesting. Going well with given your sorry.
Yeah, all good. So
given that you've got that specific goal, how are you tracking it?
Great question, Matt. There's this little thing called Ostrich that I'm using. In all seriousness, we do have savings goals. So what I've done is built a challenge that, and it's not publicly available yet. The new version will be soon for everyone, so you'll be able to do this as well. But I've got a challenge set up that allows me to track my progress. And so there's times where I'm coming in week over week, and I'm actually saying, you know what, I didn't save towards my goal, or I did, but it's a way to hold me accountable and see what do I need to do in order to stay on track. And the great thing is that as we open this up, there'll be other people that have savings goals that are trying to build a nest egg as well, that will be in that same challenge with me, that I can support and they can support me. And while they won't be able to see exactly dollar amounts, those are all private. it provides that accountability and that community that we've talked about that increases your likelihood of achieving your goals. So that's what I'm using.
Yeah, absolutely. And, same for me, but I would say we're biased. I think in the past, right, if I'm thinking about outside of Ostrich, which I just think is the best thing since sliced bread for tracking goals, I used Excel, right? That was a big thing for me, right? It was part of my job. A big part of my job was Excel modeling, and that's how I liked to track my goals in the past, right? That was what I used when I was thinking about investing or thinking about saving. Now Excel has a plugin that you can hook up to your bank accounts if you want to see those live numbers and you're not just writing things down, which is useful if you're into that kind of thing. But obviously there's other tools out there like Mint, Status Money, Personal Capital that do a really good job of showing a financial picture for you across all the different accounts if you can be bothered to log into all of them. I think those are some of the ways that I have in the past used to track goals before before Ostrich.
Yeah.
And now fully dialed
Ostrich.
in. Ostrich. I'm Ostrich only at this point.
Yeah. And I would say, Matt, I Mint. That's what I used to use, was just if I needed a big dashboard of here's where my numbers are, because I could just look at all accounts. But if I'm building up a nest egg, I've got a specific account, so I don't even need to use a big dashboarding app. I can just make sure that I've got a regular cadence where I'm checking my bank account. And I was already relatively motivated in that area, especially when I was in a sales role and it was commission based. So you're always kind of checking to see where you're at commission wise. So finance is a little bit top of mind there. But that was a great question. And I don't know if she's hopped on or not, but I know Carolina had a question that was around student loans. So I'm happy to answer that as well. Which her question was like, should I start paying back student loans now that the Biden administration has pushed back when those are going to be bearing interest again, and when you have to start paying, is what should I do over these next 3 months? And there's a few different ways that we think about this, and I'll let Andrew kind of give his perspective as well. But if you're trying to get out of debt as quickly as possible, there's two approaches that I would take. One is keep paying your monthly payment that you should have been paying, or that you would have started paying Jan 1 for student loans. Just start paying that, and that entire payment is going to go directly to principal. And what that means is you're going to lower your balance a lot quicker because you're not having to cover that interest that isn't due right now. So you can do that, which is the first approach. The second is, if you're a little bit more disciplined, what you can do is you can actually take and make that same payment that you would put towards your student loans while there's no interest, and put it in a high yield savings account, and you'll be able to earn a little bit of extra money on top of that. And then what you'll do is you'll schedule one big lump sum payment where you'll take all of that and pay it just before student loans turn back on, and you've got to start paying interest on that. So those are two approaches. One of them optimizes a little bit more for dollars, but realistically, to make that decision of what you should do, you've got to think about your own psychology. Can you, not touch that money if you're not putting it directly to your student loan payments right now? Or can you just go ahead and, do you need to just do that where you're paying it regularly, or can you do the lump sum? So it's really up to your psychology.
Yeah, I think you've got to know yourself, right? I think for most people, it's probably going to be just keep making the payments.
Oh, yeah. All good.
So, for most people, it's going to be making those payments, right? You are going to earn a small amount of interest. Casey, to answer that question, for mortgages, obviously you're going to earn a little bit more. If you've got a moratorium on interest, then you're going to earn a little bit more money because they're larger balances, right? So if you've got the discipline to do it, there's a bit more benefit to it. But again, you got to know yourself, right? And is it worth the hassle of doing it?
Yeah, I mean, Casey, I think the other thing is there's not a moratorium right now on interest for mortgages. So you should just keep making your regular payments. I think if you're trying to figure out if you should pay off your mortgage more quickly or less quickly, that's just going to kind of depend on your own financial goals and security. Some people are really anxious when it comes to any form of debt whatsoever, in which case then you should probably prioritize paying off your mortgage. If you've got other debts that have higher interest rates, you should always prioritize the highest interest rates debt from a financial perspective. There's also something called, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, Casey, but because of like the time value of money, there's like, and how interest rates work. If you borrowed $100 in 1900 versus today, we know that $100 in 1900 is worth a lot more. But if I didn't have to pay that money back until today, I would take that deal every day of the week, because $100 today doesn't buy me nearly as much as it would have in 1900. Concept, but like the last payment that you make on your mortgage, that amount of money won't buy you nearly as much as it would today. So I don't know if that makes sense, but there's this concept of, can you earn more money, or can you do something with that money that's more fruitful than paying down the debt? And if you have an answer to that, that's yes, and it's good from a psychological perspective, then that makes sense. Andrew, if you can clean up what I said, maybe I clarified a little bit more.
It depends on the interest rate, right? The mortgage and the level of inflation. But given that inflation is increasing, then I think you're right. You're likely to end up in a position where, on a relative basis, you've borrowed less right at the end of the debt than you had at the beginning. I think Casey had another question about how do we think about keeping goals top of mind when they become challenging or stressful, and managing that. And, I think that's a case of, again, knowing yourself and understanding, do you need to adjust your goals or adjust your tactics based on changes in circumstances, right? If things get challenging, unexpected expenses come up, or your circumstances change, then you have to be able to reevaluate your goals and where you're at. You can't just plow on through and say, everything, I'm going to have to stick to this goal, I can't give it up. Like, if you need to, it's okay. And it's good to reassess, right, where you are as things change. Sometimes that'll be for the better, right? You can achieve a goal more quickly. Sometimes it's for the worse, and you need to adjust your thinking and where you're heading. But it's kind of important to keep in mind that, just because you've set a goal and you have a plan to get there, you don't have to stick to that, assuming that things change. Like, it's better to, it's good to have a plan, and it's good to stick to the plan if it's there. But if there's a good reason to change the plan, then it's fine to do that. There's no kind of hard and fast rule that says you just can't, you can't adjust things as you go. It's got to be realistic.
Yeah. I mean, life happens, right? Like, you have something unexpected happen, you get married, you have a kid, whatever, anything changes. You just realize that you don't like the thing that you thought you really liked, that you set a goal for. You can always change that. So I think that's a good point, Andrew.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
What else? Anything else you want to go through?
I don't know. Let's see. Are there any other questions from folks that are on, whether it's finance related or goal related or anything like that? Happy to answer those. If there's anyone that's got anything.
And we're available, as you know. Everyone who's watching knows us. So feel free, if you're shy and you don't want to broadcast your question to up to 7 people, then we're happy to answer questions in private as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think obviously for us, we know that being able to have a safe space to talk about, money and finance is important, but there's also context, and everyone's different. Your relationship, whether you're comfortable talking about, money with friends, family, strangers, everyone's different. I think that's something that we've learned with Ostrich is people tend to like it. One has specific ways of when they're comfortable talking, and it looks like Chris might have a question actually coming in too.
By text or video?
Okay. So the question is, do you have personal philosophies on risk tolerance and making your money work for you? Moving target for individuals, but pertains to my 2022 goals. Yeah. I mean, I think this is a tough one, and everyone's going to be different in terms of what they're comfortable with from a risk perspective. Your relationship's also going to change, right? Just like your risk profile will probably change over the course of your life. If you've got more responsibilities, things like that, that might adjust. Um, I guess the way that I think about it is like I mentioned that like one of my first goals when I first got my corporate job ages ago was to max out my 401k. And that's because I'd done a lot of research and just read a bunch of books that showed that you could essentially invest, a chunk of money, 40, 50, $60,000 in your early 20s and essentially not contribute anything else. And you'd end up just as well off as someone that started 10 years after you and contributed the entire time. So like, from that perspective, I feel like I've personally built myself a strong foundation. And one of the things with Ostrich is even though like I've been tapping into personal savings, I'm not touching retirement accounts, things that I have built. That's kind of, for me, my psychological safety net, which allows me to do more interesting things. So like in terms of risk, like I've taken a deeper dive into NFTs and invested amounts of money that, aren't crazy, but I feel comfortable taking a little bit greater risk on some of these moonshots because of the fact that I've got that strong foundation. And again, it's not any money that I'm not willing to lose. So that's kind of my personal perspective. I don't know if I answered the question, and Andrew, I'll let you take a crack at it as well.
Yeah, I think it's all about, figuring out what are you comfortable losing, like, and how much do you care about actively investing? If you're interested and you want to actively invest, then yeah, look into it deeply and figure out, what's the money that you can't afford to lose and put that into safer investments, probably, ETFs to give you broad exposure and keep it simple, and then have a percentage of your wealth that you invest in things that interest you that are more risky if that's what you want. So for me, that looks like, keeping the vast majority of my portfolio in boring things, right? That are not risky because I'm thinking about, my investments being for the long term rather than for the short term. But, nothing crazy, but then having a percentage of money that I put towards cryptocurrency, or that, I invest in some crazy venture that, I'm doing with my friend, and I'm just, hoping that it works out for the best. But like, it's figuring out what's that tolerance, what's the money that, again, don't touch your retirement accounts, as Will said, like it's not worth it. But with everything else, what's your tolerance, and what do you feel comfortable losing, and look at it from that perspective. And then kind of make decisions from there.
I mean, I like that you said, right? Like there's, with all the boring stuff, like I don't think about those investments at all, right? It's boring index funds, which is, I feel good about, like, it's going to outperform most actively managed stuff. And then I've got a little bit that I can play with on stuff that might go to the moon. There's a book called Black Swan by Nassim Taleb, who's a famous economist. He also wrote Anti-Fragile, which summarizes kind of all the research that he's done in the space. But there is this idea of like majority of your portfolio should be really boring and should be the stuff that's going to do well, like index funds. But then with the other smaller percent that you're okay losing, that it's not going to affect you emotionally, it's not going to affect you day to day, then, take some moonshots. So,
yeah. And if you're excited about that and you want to get into startups, you can now angel invest without being accredited. You just have to get a certain securities license, I think, and anybody can do that. So if that's something that you're looking to get into, and there are ways into that kind of investors club, right? Beyond just, I have a lot of money. So, if you're interested and you want to do something a bit different, that's riskier, that's one way that doesn't involve Coinbase.
Yeah. And there's crowdfunding and other things like that.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome, Gainza. Do you have any questions for us? Finance related, goal related? We've just been answering questions for folks over the last few minutes or so. No worries if you don't, but that's to catch you up. We've just talked about goal setting and how you can set proper financial goals, and other questions that people might have. But Chris, hopefully that answered your question though.
The impossible to answer question. How much risk is the right amount?
What is an NFT? Yeah, there's going to be some stuff coming on that. I've got Actually, I've got it created. I haven't done the video yet, but I'll give you guys some alpha, as the NFT crypto space likes to call it. But there's an app called POAP, which it's free to mint NFTs. They're more just like collecting like ticket stubs type thing. But if you type this in, POAP, you download their app. It's free. I will give you a code and you can download your very first Ostrich NFT. It's just, it's actually a Christmas related one, but you'll download the app and then you'll type this in as the secret phrase. And you'll be able to mint an NFT. Again, it's probably not gonna be worth anything. It's just kind of like a cool thing to collect, but you type that into the secret phrase.
So
well, this is
yet.
True. But that's what it is. Merry Ostrich, as in like Merry Christmas, but Merry Ostrich. And it is case sensitive, but download that POAP app, and then click on the mint button and then secret phrase and type in Merry Ostrich and you'll be able to get that. I'll do a video too, so you can see that, but people are like farming these out. So don't share this with everyone. Hopefully someone hasn't farmed it out already, or else no one will be able to mint them because they'll all be gone already. There's only 100. So anyway.
Cool.
Sweet.
All right.
This
was fun.
Yeah, this was good. Oh. Aw. I'm sorry you're not feeling well, Gainza. Actually, I think, yeah, Carolina just said that you weren't feeling well. So I hope you start feeling better. What's up, Ariel? Cool. I don't know.
All right.
We don't have anything else unless you've got any other questions. Sorry, Gainza, you missed Andrew's British voice for a little while. We've been talking for 40 minutes or so.
Who knows how long. Too long. We've been talking for too long.
Too long.
I think people have had enough of my voice at this point.
Cool. All right. Well, we got some big Ostrich announcements coming out. So appreciate it. If you haven't signed up, I think most everyone that's on this live at this point has signed up. But if you haven't, go to getostrich.com and put in your email address and we'll put you on the wait list for when the new app gets released, which we're excited about, will be very, very soon. Oh, sweet, Gainza. Yeah, email us. I think you've definitely got my email. You have my phone number if you don't, so. Cool. Awesome.
All right. Great.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of the day. Happy New Year.